Hi, y'all. This is my first video of recovery reflections, and I'm going live, and I'm not sure how to do this. So, if you're watching, you are the guinea pigs. Tonight, I heard a story, and I'll tell you more about that in part two. But for a recovery reflection, I want to ask you, what's your favorite story? When I was in college learning to be a teacher, I had a class that was teaching reading. And my favorite story that I heard one day was Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Viorst. I'm not going to read this whole story to you, but after I heard it, I borrowed the book from the teacher and went around the whole dorm reading it to anyone who would listen to it. This kid, Alexander, I must have really made a connection with him. And Alexander had a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Here are some of the things that happened to him. So he woke up in the morning and he went to sleep with gum in his mouth. And guess what? In the morning, it was in his hair. So he had gum in his hair. On the carpool to school, he did not get a window seat. And even though he told everyone he was being smooshed and he was going to get carsick, no one even answered. So he knew it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And once he got to school, his best friend Paul told him that he wasn't his best friend, that Alexander was not his best friend, that he was only his third best friend. And that's when Alexander told him, I hope your ice cream part falls off your cone part the next time you get one and lands in Australia. And Alexander kept telling everybody he was going to move to Australia. When they sat down to lunch and he opened his lunchbox, there was dessert in everybody's lunch bag, but Alexander's mom forgot to pack dessert. So there was no dessert for lunch, but lima beans for dinner. He hates lima beans. And to go to bed, he had to wear his railroad train pajamas, which he did not like. He knew that it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Now, how does this relate to recovery? Well, all through the story, he was threatening to move to Australia, so he was trying the geographic cure. But as we know, if you're in recovery, moving away to a different place doesn't help because wherever you go, there you are. But in the end of the book, his mom says that some days are just like this, even in Australia. So that's my favorite story. And tonight, I got to go to a Celebrate Recovery meeting here in Winchester, Virginia, where I live. And I got to hear a story of someone's victory over the things that they had faced through their life. And it was the third time I had heard this story, but it was just as powerful and strong as the first time I heard it. And what I appreciate about recovery stories is we start about telling how it was and what happened and what it's like now. And how it was in recovery wasn't always the prettiest things going on in life. That's why we all have hurts, hangups, and habits. What happened is most of us have found our way to recovery if we're sharing this story. But even in our lives as we're sharing now, when someone shares what's going on now, it's not a finished story. And sometimes we're still hanging on to the cliff. Sometimes we're still wondering if there's going to be lima beans for dinner or kissing on TV. Alexander hated kissing. We are still in those cliffhanger moments, holding on and wondering how in the world, what in the world is going to happen next. But as believers in Jesus, I know that God's word promises me that he is working all things together for my good if I continue to love him and follow his ways. So the cliffhangers where I am holding on for dear life, he's holding on to me. And even though it feels like I'm slipping, I know his hands are under me to catch me. So, my favorite story is Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. That's my favorite storybook. But my favorite story is how God has been working in my life and in other people's lives around me to tell his story in our lives so that we can bring him glory. Hey, thanks for letting me share. I'll see you soon.